They always say the truth has a way of coming out no matter how powerful, how famous, or how carefully someone tries to control the narrative. And if you've been paying attention to the mounting tension between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, you'll know that we're deep in the trenches of a legal showdown that could shift the power dynamics in Hollywood forever. Right now, one key issue is front and center discovery delays, and Blake Lively is being accused of dragging her feet. What was supposed to be a straightforward exchange of evidence and witness depositions has turned into a slow-motion train wreck. Justin Baldoni's legal team has officially had enough, and they're not holding back. His lead attorney just dropped a scathing motion calling out what they describe as intentional and strategic stalling by Blake's team. In legal circles, this isn't just a minor scheduling conflict. Discovery delays can be used to stall justice, drain the opposition's resources, or even shift public perception by keeping damning information under wraps for as long as possible. So what exactly is going on behind closed doors? Why hasn't Blake Lively sat for her court-ordered deposition yet? Why are key documents missing from the initial evidence handover? Why are witnesses being told to wait just a little longer? And more importantly, what is she trying to hide? In today's deep dive, we're breaking down every twist in the growing allegations that Blake Lively's team is using delay tactics in a desperate attempt to control the fallout. From court filings and exclusive insider leaks to the very public frustration of Baldoni's attorneys, we're laying it all out. And trust me, what's happening behind the scenes is much darker than what you've seen in headlines. This isn't just a procedural hiccup. It's a chess game with billion-dollar reputations on the line, and every move is calculated. We'll explore the newly leaked scheduling emails that reveal who canceled what and when, Blake Lively's shifting legal strategy, and what PR experts say it really signals. The devastating motion from Justin Baldoni's camp that could force the court to impose sanctions or even compel testimony. How this delay could backfire spectacularly for Blake if judges begin to sense bad faith, and whether this all links back to the now infamous Taylor Swift text messages that are rumored to be included in discovery, and that Blake reportedly doesn't want released. So buckle up. We've got legal analysis, Hollywood drama, and a brutal battle of wills all packed into one explosive breakdown. Let's get into it. From the outside, Hollywood stars often seem untouchable, polished, protected, and distant from the chaos the rest of us deal with. But when they step into the courtroom, none of that matters. The law doesn't care about your PR team, it doesn't care about your movie deals, and it certainly doesn't care about your image. That reality is starting to hit Blake Lively hard. After months of silence, carefully staged photo ops, and vague public statements, Lively is now at the center of a procedural standoff that could define this case. And at the heart of that standoff is one word: discovery. For those unfamiliar with the term, discovery is the pre-trial phase, where both sides exchange information, documents, emails, text messages, financial records, even personal journals. It's also when depositions happen, the grueling hours-long testimonies, where attorneys ask detailed, often uncomfortable questions under oath. It's not glamorous, it's not scripted, and it can't be spun by a publicist. That's what makes it so dangerous, especially for someone with as much to lose as Blake Lively. Justin Baldoni's legal team sounds the alarm. According to new court filings submitted last week, Justin Baldoni's legal team is officially accusing Blake Lively of intentionally delaying discovery. And their language isn't subtle. In a motion filed with the Superior Court of California, Baldoni's lead attorney, Brian Friedman, accuses Lively's legal representatives of engaging in bad faith delay tactics designed to frustrate the discovery process and obstruct the pursuit of truth. The motion outlines a timeline of canceled meetings, rescheduled depositions, and missing documents, painting a picture of a coordinated effort to run out the clock. One excerpt reads, "Despite clear deadlines established by the court, the respondent, Ms. Lively, has repeatedly failed to comply with discovery requests, citing vague scheduling conflicts and last-minute emergencies, without providing adequate justification." According to the motion, Baldoni's team initially requested a deposition from Blake Lively back in mid-April. They claim her team agreed to a date in early May, only to cancel it 48 hours before the scheduled deposition. The reschedule was then set for late May, but again canceled. By the time of the filing, over 70 days had passed without a single formal deposition from Blake, despite repeated notices. But that's not the only delay. Baldoni's attorneys also point to a set of documents they claim were due by the end of April. These include communications between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and several unnamed crisis management professionals, internal documents relating to Blake's alleged coordination with tabloid media, calendars and schedules tied to the dates in question, crucial for reconstructing events, Baldoni says. were misrepresented by Lively publicly. None of these were turned over by the deadline according to the filing. Public relations experts suggest this may be more than just legal wrangling. It's a strategic move, one designed to control the narrative, while avoiding the possibility of damning facts surfacing. Legal strategist Diana Foster told Blossom Talk in an exclusive interview, "If Blake Lively sits for a deposition under oath and contradicts any of her prior public statements, it could not only ruin her credibility but open her up to perjury or civil penalties." According to Foster, the longer Lively avoids discovery, the longer her team has to manage media optics and suppress damaging leaks. But there's a limit, and it's rapidly approaching. So let's address the elephant in the courtroom: Taylor Swift. At first glance, you might wonder, what does Taylor Swift have to do with Blake Lively's legal dispute? With Justin Baldoni, isn't this supposed to be a private matter between two Hollywood actors? But as always in Hollywood, the surface never tells the full story. According to multiple insider sources, Taylor Swift's private messages are poised to become one of the most explosive pieces of evidence in this entire case. And Blake Lively is doing everything in her power to keep those texts buried. Here's what we know so far. The text message trail: back in March, Baldoni's attorneys submitted a list of electronic discovery requests, essentially a demand to review text communications, emails, and cloud-based messages that fall within the timeline of the original dispute. The list included messages between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, communications with Ryan Reynolds, conversations with publicists, crisis managers, and legal counsel regarding strategy or media manipulation. But what shocked the court and later leaked to media outlets was the specificity of the Taylor Swift request. Baldoni's team isn't just guessing, they know these messages exist. One court filing reads, "Based on discovery already obtained, petitioner has reason to believe that material communications occurred between respondent Blake Lively and a close personal associate, Taylor Swift, regarding the core allegations and subsequent public representations made in press interviews and social media." So what does that mean? It means Baldoni's team already has partial access to corroborating information, perhaps metadata or even screenshots that suggest Taylor Swift may have been advising Blake on how to frame the situation publicly. That's a potential PR bombshell, but in legal terms it could be devastating. Why Taylor's involvement could crumble Blake's case? Let's imagine a hypothetical one that insiders say might be closer to the truth than we realize. Suppose Taylor Swift told Blake Lively not to disclose certain facts, or she encouraged Blake to pursue a particular narrative, one that later turned out to be misleading. Or worse, what if Taylor expressed doubts about Blake's claims in private, but still supported her publicly? In that case, those texts become critical evidence of intent, manipulation, or dishonesty. Even though Swift isn't a party in the lawsuit, her involvement becomes unavoidable if her words influenced how Blake handled key decisions. Legal analyst Brent Caldwell explains the presence of a celebrity third party like Taylor Swift doesn't shield the communications if those texts show material influence on the narrative or decision-making of the defendant. They're admissible. That's why Blake's team is likely doing everything possible to delay turning them over. What is Blake's team saying publicly? Nothing. Privately, panic. Sources close to the legal process say Blake's attorneys have fought hard behind the scenes to argue that the Taylor Swift messages are private, unrelated to the central dispute, and protected under personal privacy. But that argument has already been rejected by the judge twice. In a ruling back in late June, the court sided with Baldoni's team, stating that the messages are relevant to both credibility and motive. The judge added that Lively's own public statements made Swift's involvement fair game. That's important, because remember, Blake Lively has already cited Taylor Swift in public interviews. She talked about how Swift supported her through the darkest time and how the strength of women who know me helped me speak up. Those statements opened the door. And now the judge has ordered the Swift texts to be included in discovery. But here's the catch: they haven't been produced yet. Delay tactic or legal risk management? Why would Blake's team risk sanctions by delaying? The answer is simple: the PR damage could be irreversible. If those messages get out, even in redacted form, they could undermine Blake's credibility, damage her friendship with Swift, spark a media frenzy that reframes her as a manipulator, not a victim, shift public sentiment away from her just when she needs it most. Multiple outlets are already on alert. Paparazzi have been following Taylor Swift, hounding her with questions about the case. Online speculation is rampant, and fans have begun dissecting Swift's every move, trying to guess where her loyalties lie. If Blake turns over the messages and they reveal contradictions or calculated strategizing, it's over. So the delays continue. Justin Baldoni's lawyers aren't having it. Last week, Justin Baldoni's legal team filed another motion. this time specifically asking the court to compel Blake Lively to produce the Taylor Swift messages, or face monetary sanctions and possible contempt proceedings. In the filing, Baldoni's attorney wrote, "Respondent has had ample time, over 6 weeks, to comply with this court's directive. Her continued failure to provide the requested communications, particularly those with high relevance individuals, such as Ms. Swift, constitutes a willful obstruction of discovery." They're not bluffing. Sources say Baldoni's team may even push for a motion to exclude Blake from presenting certain defenses if she refuses to comply. That's a major step, but it would send a message you can't play both sides, and if that wasn't enough pressure, there's something else. Taylor Swift's team may be preparing a statement. Rumors are swirling that Swift's own legal team is preparing a neutral public statement, one that distances Taylor from the discovery drama without attacking Blake directly. That in itself would be a massive tell. If Taylor Swift, a notoriously private and tightly managed figure, is preparing for damage control, it signals she knows her name is about to be dragged into court filings and press headlines alike. As one insider put it, Taylor is loyal, but she's not going to go down with the ship. If those texts are what people say they are, her camp will move fast to draw a line between friendship and legal entanglement. And when that happens, Blake may find herself standing alone. If Blake Lively thought delaying discovery would buy her time, she may have just run out of it, because Justin Baldoni's legal team has officially escalated the fight. After months of trying to handle things quietly through email exchanges, private mediation attempts, and sealed communications, they've taken the gloves off. This isn't just about missed deadlines anymore, it's about accountability and whether Blake Lively is violating the court's discovery orders, and now sanctions are on the table. The motion to compel. On July 5th, Baldoni's attorneys filed a formal motion to compel discovery, arguing that Blake's team has not only failed to provide court-ordered communications, but has also ignored deposition scheduling demands in direct defiance of established timelines. The motion is scathing. In it, attorney Brian Friedman writes, "Respondents' continued refusal to engage in good faith discovery efforts constitutes a pattern of obstruction. We ask the court to compel immediate compliance and consider appropriate sanctions." The language is aggressive and strategic. By using terms like pattern of obstruction, Baldoni's legal team is laying the groundwork for future consequences: disqualification of witnesses, evidence exclusion, and potentially even civil penalties if the court finds Blake's team in willful non-compliance. And here's where it gets even more serious. Friedman doesn't stop with the Taylor Swift texts. He goes on to accuse Blake Lively of withholding additional communications, including internal communications with her legal counsel, that may fall outside attorney-client privilege if they were shared for PR strategy messages to and from third-party influencers who may have coordinated messaging around the case documents, suggesting preemptive non-disclosure agreements offered to witnesses or assistants if these allegations are true. This goes well beyond a scheduling issue. It could amount to a deliberate attempt to suppress evidence. The push for sanctions. In the same motion, Baldoni's team makes a bold move. They request that the court consider monetary sanctions for every day of non-compliance, beginning from the original deadline. They propose $5,000 per day, retroactively calculated from June 1st. That's over $200,000 in fines just for failing to turn over documents and appear for deposition. This isn't just about the money. It's about sending a message that no one is above the rules, and that includes Blake Lively. Judge Helms, the presiding judge, has a reputation for strict discovery enforcement. Legal experts predict he won't let this slide much longer. Family law attorney and media analyst Kendra Paulson weighed in, judges don't like when high-profile litigants try to outmaneuver court timelines. The courts operate on order and structure. If Blake's delays are seen as strategic rather than logistical, the judge could rule harshly, even limit her ability to introduce her own evidence. That's the nightmare scenario for Team Lively. The subpoena strategy, but it doesn't stop there. Baldoni's attorneys are now expanding the battlefield, issuing third-party subpoenas to compel cooperation from individuals who might hold relevant evidence whether Blake turns her materials over or not. So far, the following subpoenas have been confirmed or reported: Blake's former assistant, who resigned in March, days before the initial court filing, a public relations agency rumored to have assisted Blake in drafting media statements, a freelance journalist who had contact with Blake's team prior to publishing a now-debunked puff piece, a digital forensics company, ALLEGEDLY, hired to clean digital backups. Each of these subpoenas is designed to get around the bottleneck Blake's team has created. If she won't provide it, they'll get it from someone else, and legally that's perfectly valid. In fact, these third-party subpoenas are often more reliable because they don't go through the filter of the party's legal team. That's why Lively's attorneys are reportedly scrambling to file motions to quash the subpoenas, hoping to limit the scope of questioning and suppress sensitive material. But here's the problem: the clock is ticking. The court has already ruled that discovery must conclude by August 1st or else the trial will be postponed. And that's exactly what Baldoni's team says. Blake wants a delay of trial until after award season, when the public spotlight isn't as hot. Turning public sympathy into leverage, Justin Baldoni isn't just winning in court, he's also winning in public opinion. His calm, methodical legal strategy, combined with his minimal public appearances and refusal to feed the media storm, has earned him praise as a victim of legal manipulation. People see him as someone who didn't want to fight but was forced into one. By contrast, Blake's perceived evasiveness is starting to backfire. Online polls show a slow but noticeable shift in sentiment. Once hailed as the brave woman speaking out against emotional manipulation, Blake is now facing a surge of skepticism, even from longtime fans. The top comment on one viral TikTok post read, "Why is she delaying if she's telling the truth? Just show the texts and be done with it." That question, posed by a casual viewer, might be the most damaging of all, and Baldoni's team knows it, which is why they've adopted a low-volume, high-pressure strategy: avoid interviews, skip the press conferences, but drop courtroom filings so detailed and aggressive they can't be ignored. Legal strategist Molly Rendon explains Baldoni's team is clearly playing long-game chess. Every delay Blake initiates, they document. Every canceled deposition, they log. It's going to culminate in a massive bad faith filing right before trial, and that could tip the scales in a major way. The leverage play here is where it gets fascinating. While Blake is trying to delay discovery, Baldoni may be baiting her into doing just that, because each delay adds leverage. Every missed deadline adds to his record of procedural obstruction. Every motion to compel increases the possibility that the judge will sanction Blake, or worse, block her from introducing new evidence at trial. If that happens, Blake Lively could walk into court with her hands tied. That's not just legal strategy, that's legal entrapment done by the book. According to multiple insiders, Baldoni's team is already preparing a motion in limine, a request filed shortly before trial asking the court to exclude evidence that should have been shared during discovery but wasn't, and if granted, Blake's own texts, her own witnesses, even her own timeline of events might be ruled inadmissible. That would leave her defenseless. If discovery is the heartbeat of a legal case, then Blake Lively's delays may be putting her entire defense on life support. We've reached a critical turning point. The judge is out of patience. Baldoni's legal team is prepared to go scorched earth. And the public, they're beginning to ask the question Blake Lively has spent months trying to avoid. What is she hiding? And now, as sanctions loom and a growing storm brews in the court of public opinion, Blake Lively's team is suddenly facing the real possibility that none of their evidence may make it into trial. Let's break down the legal fallout, the Hollywood backlash, and what the trial might look like if the court imposes the harshest penalties. As of today, Blake Lively has been found non-compliant with at least 3 separate discovery orders. Judge Helms has issued formal warnings in chambers, but now he may be ready to impose consequences with teeth. Let's break down the possibilities. Monetary sanctions. Baldoni's team is pushing for $5,000 per day, retroactively dating from June 1st. That adds up to more than $200,000 already and counting. The court could issue this sanction immediately, which would be a formal black mark on Blake's case. But more importantly, it would signal to the world and the jury that her delays weren't innocent. Exclusion of evidence. This is where things get lethal for the defense. If Blake fails to hand over key documents or sits out her deposition much longer, the judge can grant Baldoni's request to exclude her from submitting any new evidence tied to the topics being withheld. That means no text from Blake that explain her version, no introduction of alternative narratives, no surprise witnesses or expert testimony, no opportunity to dispute what Baldoni presents as fact in legal terms. That's called kneecapping your own defense. Contempt of court. If Blake's team outright refuses a court order, including the order to produce the Taylor Swift messages, she could face civil contempt charges. That would involve fines, potential restrictions on travel, and in extreme cases, jail time. While jail is unlikely, the optics of a contempt order would be devastating. No matter how her team spins it, headlines would read Blake Lively held in contempt during legal battle with Justin Baldoni, and in a trial where public credibility is everything, that could be fatal. Behind the scenes, the industry is watching this case with growing discomfort. Blake Lively was once a top-tier brand, clean, poised, untouchable. But the legal maneuvering, the stalling tactics, and the swirling rumors of coordinated PR efforts are beginning to chip away at that image. Fast. according to one anonymous executive from a streaming platform that had previously courted Lively. For a lead role, we're in wait-and-see mode. The legal stuff is one thing, but the public reaction is turning if she goes into court under a cloud of sanctions. That's not the kind of headline you want attached to a launch. Even worse, some of Lively's own Hollywood allies are reportedly stepping back quietly. Sources close to the situation say that agents, publicists, and even directors have stopped returning calls or issuing public support. And one name that stands out in this silence: Taylor Swift. Despite being named in the court filings and reportedly having her private text messages requested as evidence, Taylor Swift has said nothing. No public statement, no Instagram story, no cryptic song lyric or insider leak. And for someone like Taylor, a master of image and intention, that kind of silence is very, very loud. Legal experts say Swift's silence could be part of a legal distancing strategy. Here's the likely reality: her legal team is bracing for possible subpoenas. Her publicist is advising her to avoid any comment that could be used as testimony. And her brand managers are terrified of any association with what's increasingly being framed as a dishonest campaign by Lively. If Taylor's texts do come out, and if they show even a hint of concern, contradiction, or advice that suggests awareness of manipulation, it could cause a seismic PR rupture between the two. So far, Swift has not offered Blake public support. That speaks volumes. The trial without her voice. Let's imagine the worst-case scenario for Blake. She refuses to produce the Taylor Swift messages. She skips her deposition. The court grants Baldoni's request for sanctions and excludes Blake from introducing new testimony or evidence related to communications intent or public statements. What does that trial look like? It looks like this: Baldoni's team presents emails and texts from third parties painting Blake as coordinated and vindictive. What began as a calculated pause in a high-stakes legal battle has now spiraled into a potential disaster for Blake Lively, legally, publicly, and professionally. At first, delaying discovery might have seemed like a smart move. Her team likely thought, buy more time, control the media, protect the narrative, shield the damaging details. But time has a way of revealing everything, and the longer she pushed the deadlines, the more obvious it became that this wasn't about scheduling. It was about strategy, and now that strategy has completely unraveled. Blake's refusal to comply with discovery has triggered a full legal counterattack from Justin Baldoni's team, one that includes motions to compel demands for sanctions and subpoenas targeting third parties who may have the evidence Blake wants to keep buried. At the center of it all are the Taylor Swift text messages, a digital thread that could either explain everything or destroy what little public trust Blake has left. What's most damning isn't just the absence of these communications, it's the pattern. Multiple missed deposition dates, no-show document deliveries, leaked court memos, and mounting frustration from Baldoni's attorneys, who now claim this isn't just delay, it's deliberate obstruction. Judges hate obstruction, and they hate it even more when it comes from a powerful celebrity who appears to be manipulating the legal process while hiding behind press silence and influencer sympathy. That's why the consequences could be swift and severe. We're talking sanctions, exclusion of evidence, and possibly even civil contempt. But Blake's biggest problem isn't legal, it's reputational. She was once seen as the unflinching female voice against Hollywood hypocrisy, the elegant actress standing up to a man accused of emotional harm and professional misconduct. Now that image is slipping. Every time she ducks a deposition or delays a court filing, more fans ask the same question. If she's telling the truth, what is she so afraid of? Even her allies are growing quieter. Taylor Swift, the name that once gave Blake unshakable public support, has gone totally silent, and that silence is more than awkward, it's strategic. Taylor's brand cannot afford to be pulled into a courtroom drama tied to concealed messages and narrative control. If those texts show even the slightest contradiction, the illusion of solidarity will crack forever. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni has played this like a master tactician. While Blake flailed with optics, Baldoni stayed focused on the court. No tweets, no interviews, just sharp legal filings and a clear refusal to play the PR game. And now he's poised to walk into trial with all the leverage. Because here's what's happening: every delay from Blake is being logged. Every refusal to comply adds to a potential bad faith case. And if the judge sees enough of those bricks piled up, he can and likely will build a wall between Blake and the evidence she needs to defend herself. That means she could walk into court unable to introduce documents, unable to testify on her own timeline, and unable to counter Justin's narrative with her own. It would be a legal collapse and a reputational cliff she may never climb back from. And as this plays out in real time, the message to Hollywood is becoming louder: you can't manipulate the court like you manipulate the media. There's no red carpet in a courtroom, no lighting crew, no stylist, No editor to cut around the bad angles or script the perfect quote. There's just evidence, accountability, and the hard truth, all of which Blake Lively seems to be dodging as long as she can. But the clock is running out, the court's discovery deadline is looming, and every hour Blake delays is another hour closer to a trial where she may have no defense at all. In trying to control the narrative, Blake Lively has lost control of the case, and now as her team scrambles to block subpoenas and rewrite talking points, one brutal fact hangs in the air: the story she's trying to bury might be the very one that defines her forever. Blake can't respond, explain, or contextualize any of it. Her defense is left arguing technicalities, not truth. The jury sees one narrative, only Justin's. That's not just bad strategy, it's the equivalent of forfeiting the match. Even if Blake Lively has a strong defense, none of it will matter if the judge has already ruled that her evidence is inadmissible because she refused to share it on time. And that's where this is heading, legal expert Jordan Vance told Blossom Talk. At this point, the court may make an example out of her. If celebrities think they can dodge legal accountability because of their fame, judges have a duty to remind them that discovery rules apply to everyone. The bigger picture, a warning to Hollywood: this case is no longer just about two actors. It's a Hollywood morality tale. It's about what happens when a public figure tries to leverage media control, celebrity alliances, and image management to bend a courtroom process to their will and fails. It's about the clash between PR optics and legal facts. And it's becoming the ultimate cautionary tale for A-listers who think the courtroom is just another red carpet. Blake Lively tried to delay the inevitable, but in doing so she may have triggered something worse, a legal and professional unraveling playing out in real time for the world to see.